Okay, all right, here is something that came from Facebook and Twitter. A lot of people asking these questions, okay?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
A little bit harsh. During the general elections, a lot of people thought that the two of you, new MPs, riding on the coattails of those that came before you. What do you have to say about that? How would you respond?
I think there's probably some truth in that. When you go forward as a new MP, I mean, no one really knows you. So I think part of the reason they put trust in you is because, they know, okay, there's a, minister here who can probably guide you a little bit. So in that sense, they feel a bit more confident about that as well. And in my case, I think my predecessor did a very good job too. So, there was, well, of course, people then say, are you sure you can do, all the same work he did? And I did get that question a lot of times. Okay. So that's something I've got to do.
Hey, Ling, what about you? Riding coattails? Yes, no?
No, I think all of us will have to pull our own weight. Of course, adding on to what Vikram had said, to a certain extent that is probably true. But all of us need to pull our own weight because as politicians, we must never rest on our laurels. We must always aim for 100%.
So you feel confident in yourself being a politician, being able to pull your own weight. And so that brings up the next question that I'd like to ask you all. Would you all be confident enough to run in a single-member constituency?
Don't answer that
question.
We'll
get the answer when we come back after this break.
Okay.
Welcome back to BlogTV. Tonight we have on the couch two new members of Parliament, Ling and Vikram Nair. If you're wondering why we have no opposition MPs, I'll say this very quickly.
We invited them. They didn't want to come.
We have to explain this at the start of every segment. We did try to invite them, but they shied away from being on the show. But we have with us these two MPs. And before we went for a break, we asked them, would you be confident enough as a politician to run in a single-member constituency? Yes or no?
Yes, if asked.
Yes.
Yes.
Vikram?
It depends.
It depends? What does it depend on?
It depends on which constituency. If it's one where I've had the chance to work with residents, build up the trust, then I think I'd be more confident. If it, you threw me out of the blue in any other constituency, then, I think it's a roll of dice. So I think... But
if it's an SMC that you're not familiar with, but you've been able to do a bit of legwork prior to...
Yeah, then I guess yeah, I won't want to make a statement about that because I haven't actually met the residents, and I think each constituency is very specific, so it depends on whether I feel I can serve them.
All right. Twitter question that just came in. SMC, you're running. If you're running against Nicole Seah, would you run?
I would, if she's running as well.
All right.
Whoever the opponent is or whoever the other candidate, doesn't matter.
Do you think you'd win?
I think over the next few years, it is for me to do my best, 101%, to build the ground.
Okay, like I said earlier, we tried to invite the opposition MPs on our show, but they declined. But we did manage to record one interview with a new opposition MP, Shin Leong, from the Hougang SMC, and this is what he had to say.
Being an MP in the context of Singapore, at times is likened to that of a village chief, from big things to small things, be it from leaking pipes to like chalk drainage to things like car park issues. So it's actually very much hands-on, more hands-on than I actually ever imagined it to be. So yeah, that's the interesting aspect. You see, being an MP from the opposition camp is in itself pretty much of a challenge because the very fact that we have relatively limited resources in terms of alternative policy making. So on one hand, while you can work closely with volunteers to come up with alternative policies, but I think it's also important that we need to be balanced in terms of our expectations, in terms of eventually whether or not what that volunteers collectively can do can perhaps even match in terms of our counterparts in the proposition bench, you see, because they have the entire civil service behind them. So this is something which we need to manage our expectation in that sense. Perhaps this is one key challenge in this. I shared with this Desmond, the second advisor, very frankly, second advisor in this Hougang constituency club, that, well, I guess it's important that we need to sit down and talk. And it's important that for both of us to have an understanding that whenever there are challenges and whenever there are problems and obstacles, let us not, speak via the media. It's important to have this personal communication between two young individuals and young men who aspire to continue to serve the people of Aukang.
All right. Well, to catch the rest of the interview, the whole interview actually, please go to our website, blogtv.sg.
One last question before we wrap up. You're both young MPs. You're meant to represent the younger generation. What do you think, just the one thing that you think is lacking or missing that you'd like to champion?
I actually mentioned this in my speech, and I wouldn't say that it's lacking, but really it's more space and more resources for the young people to...
More space and more resources for young people?
Yes.
I think we need to create avenues to involve them in, building the future, and that includes, I guess, involving them in policy discussions and so on, and to also make sure that the discussion is two-way, so they understand, where the policies are coming from, and at the same time their input is also taken in.
So get them involved.
Yeah.
Give them an avenue for interaction.
Yeah,
if I may add, I think there has been some perception about young people. I think having been doing this for quite some time, I see young people coming forward, and I think it's very encouraging, and we should continue to...
Okay, speaking of continuing,
hold that thought.
We're going to be continuing this discussion on our web segment, so please go to blogtv.sg and catch the rest of this interview, which we are going to be continuing on. So next week, we're going to be talking about flats, public housing, newlyweds, and of course, we're going to be looking for you to give us your say as well on BlogTV.
Thanks for joining us tonight right here on BlogTV SG.
Happy Deepavali!